Hello. This week's Torah portion, Chukat, records the death of Miriam. It says, quote, the Israelites stayed at Kadesh. Miriam died there and was buried there. The community was without water, and so they assembled against Moses and Aaron. These verses are not unrelated. When Miriam died, the people stopped having water and rebelled. There was a well that accompanied the Israelites in the desert, and God kept it functioning through the merit of Miriam. As the Talmud says, quote, the well was given to the Jewish people in the merit of Miriam. The Mishnah even tells us that this well was one of the 10 things that God created right before the first Shabbat, anticipating these events in the far future. What did Miriam do that earned her so much merit? First, she was a prophetess. The Torah itself calls her Miriam the prophetess. We read about how she led the women in praising God in the Song of the Sea, after the sea split for the Israelites to cross on dry land, then closed back onto pursuing Egyptian warriors. Quote, then Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, picked up a tambourine, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and dances, and Miriam chanted for them, sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. She was obviously deeply devoted to God. Rashi asks, if she is called a prophetess, what did she prophesy? The Talmud answers, the Torah refers to Miriam as a prophetess, and in the same verse refers to her as the sister of Aaron. Why the sister of Aaron and not the sister of Moses? This teaches that Miriam had already prophesied when she was still the sister of only Aaron, that is, before Moses was born. Miriam would say, in the future, my mother will give birth to a son who will save the Jewish people. And once Moses was born, the entire house was filled with light, indicating he was the one. Her father kissed her on her head and said, my daughter, your prophecy has been fulfilled. Miriam was one of the 7 major prophetesses in Israel, the other 6 being Sarah, Deborah, Hannah, Abigail, Huldah, and Esther. But being a prophet who only relates God's word to the people does not by itself confirm merit. So what else did Miriam do? The Talmud and the Midrash say that after Pharaoh decreed that all the newborn males of Israel should be killed, Moses' father, Amram, reacted by saying, then we will all divorce our wives and stop having children altogether. But Miriam, Moses' sister, successfully argued with him and made him reverse his decision. Quote, Amram, Moses' father, said that it was useless for the Israelites to beget children. So he stopped having intercourse with his wife Yocheved and even divorced her, even though she was already 3 months pregnant with Moses. Then all the Israelites arose and divorced their wives. Then his daughter Miriam said to him, your decree is more severe than Pharaoh's decree. Pharaoh's decree affects only the male children, but your decree affects males and females alike. Pharaoh's decree affects only this world, but yours also affects the world to come, because babies born and killed will enjoy the afterlife, but unborn babies will not. Besides, since Pharaoh is wicked, there is some doubt whether his decree will be fulfilled. But you are righteous, and your decree will definitely be fulfilled. So he took his wife back and was followed by all the Israelites, who also took their wives back. End of quote. After Moses was born, his mother Yocheved put him in a basket on the Nile River, hoping someone finds him and saves him from Pharaoh. Miriam observed the scene from a distance to see what would happen. Then Bitya, Pharaoh's daughter, found the baby and decided to adopt him, defying her father's wishes. Miriam boldly came forward and offered to get a Hebrew wet nurse for baby Moses. The princess agreed, and Miriam brought her own mother, Yocheved. So she made sure Moses was nursed by his own mother. The Talmud tells us that Miriam married Caleb, one of the two spies who brought back a favorable report after scouting the Holy Land, the other one being Joshua. She married late in life because the Talmud says she was sickly and unattractive, but added that Caleb married her for her righteousness, for which he earned credit because he married her for the right reasons. However, after her marriage, the Talmud says that her face became beautiful like a rose, Vered. They had 3 sons and was an ancestress of King David and the future Messiah. The Midrash tells us that just as Moses taught Torah to the men, Miriam taught Torah to the women. But Miriam also had an unflattering side. All biblical characters have flaws, and the Bible presents them to us as they are. A few verses earlier, we read incidents which Miriam and Aaron criticized Moses for neglecting his wife. Quote, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses regarding the woman he had married. The Torah says that a man owes his wife 3 things: food, clothing, and intimacy. Intimacy is a man's duty and a woman's right. Quote, if a man takes for himself a wife, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, and her conjugal right. And if he does not do these 3 things, she can ask for a divorce. Now, the Midrash says that before the Exodus, Moses sent his wife and sons back to her father in Midian for safety, on the advice of Aaron. Later, he divorced her for her own sake, because he no longer had time for her, and she was entitled to a husband who can take care of her needs. God then punished Miriam with leprosy. Aaron asked Moses to intercede for her, and Moses prayed to God to heal her. God relented and cured her after 7 days of isolation from the community. Why was she punished? Wasn't she expressing a legitimate concern? The answer is that she spoke ill of Moses behind his back. She should have talked to him directly about her concern. Rashi uses this to warn against speaking ill of anyone. He said, if Miriam, who had no intention of speaking ill of Moses, was punished, all the more so someone who intentionally speaks ill of his fellow. This leaves some questions for discussion. Was Moses right in releasing his wife? Was Miriam right in criticizing him? Should spouses wait faithfully at home for long periods or demand a divorce? We'll cover these subjects another time. Moses was very close to his sister Miriam, and when she died, he was so overwhelmed with grief that he started acting inappropriately. When the people complained to him about the lack of water after Miriam's death, the Torah quotes him as telling them, listen, you rebels, shall we get water for you out of this rock? You rebels means that he blamed everyone for the rebellion of Korah, even though only a small minority participated in it. He struck the rock instead of talking to it as God had instructed him to do. He said, shall we get water for you? Shall we get water for you? Even though the miraculous water was entirely God's doing, not his or Aaron. Finally, he let anger get the best of him, something a leader must avoid. Miriam died by a kiss from God, a painless exit shared by only 5 others: Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, and Moses and Aaron. It means that God himself took her soul, not the angel of death. Even the way the Torah reports Miriam's death attests to her great merit. Ora Hayim from 18th century Morocco asks, why does the Torah say Miriam died there and was buried there? He answers, the Talmud says that the righteous are called alive even after they have died a physical death, and the wicked are called dead even after they are still alive, even while they're still alive. When the Torah says that Miriam died there, it is to remind us that Miriam was dead only there, meaning on earth, where she lived on in the place reserved for the souls of the righteous. Miriam is alive. Full disclosure, my grandmother, my sister, and my granddaughter are all named Miriam. Miriam is alive in that sense also. Shabbat Shalom.